Alright, welcome back to our second video on the fmt package. Now we're going to be covering functions that take a writer. So we have our fmt.Fprint function, and the writer that we're going to be passing into it is the OS standard out. Now by default this is just printing out to the terminal, but you could change it to something else if you'd want to. So yes, I know this could do the same thing as fmt.Print, but just to show that it is there. There we go. And we're printing out a proverb by Rob Pike, and it says, design the architecture, name the components, and document the details. Now, instead of just printing out to the screen, let's go ahead and print to a file. And here, we're going to use OS open file, and it's going to want the name of our file, it's going to know our flags, and it's going to want to know our permissions for the, for our system. And we're just going to go ahead and print the error off so we can see what it is. And this is a defer statement. It just says, hey, go ahead and make sure you execute this line of code after everything else. So this isn't actually going to run before this line. This is just going to run before the end of this code block, which happens to be the func main code block. So it's just going to go ahead and close that file when we're done. And here we got our fprint. It's going to take our writer as well as our value that we're passing in. And let's just go ahead and run that. Just to show that here's our myfile.txt. It's in the same directory as main.go. It's just going to go ahead and look directly in that directory, so I don't need to give it any pathing. Alright, we got nil for our error. That's a good sign. And there we go. We printed our proverb to our file. Now, we're going to go ahead and print another one to our file. But I want to create another writer. So I want one for logging our errors. So we're going to use OS open file. We're going to give it our file name, which happens to be logfile.txt, and give it our flags, give it our permissions, and then we're going to take that. We're going to pass it to inside the log package, and we're going to set our output to this writer. Instead of printing to the screen, we're setting the output to this writer, which is going to go ahead and print to the log file.txt. So we're using our fmt.Fprint function. We're still passing it this writer from up here, which is printing to file.txt. And we're going to pass it in the second proverb up here. And our error, and if our error does not equal to nil, we're going to say print to screen saying, hey, we have an error, and then log fatal line. Instead of printing this to the screen, we're going to go ahead and print it to this file right here, the log file.txt. And then of course we're going to defer closing that writer as well. Let's go ahead and run that. Oops. All right, error was nil since we didn't. Oh, that's from up here, sorry. And as you're going to see, we went ahead and printed to myfile.txt, but we didn't actually put anything in our log file. That's because we didn't actually have any errors. So we're just going to go ahead and create our own error here. And this should print to, here we go, there was an error, exit status 1, and we should have an error right there. And the nice thing about using the one from the log package, it's going to give us a date and a time, and it's still going to pass our error message. So another thing that we can do is we can actually pass we can actually pass our writer to a function inside our web server. So let me go ahead and change directories here. Oops. There we go. All right. So here we have a piece of code. It should actually be up here. Oh wait, never mind. I forgot where you use the. There we go. I forgot we used the short form declaration. But anyway, we're saving this function here into our handler, and then down here we're actually using taking our handle function from the http package, and we're giving it a route, and we're passing it a handler. Here we're firing up our server, and it's going to be on port 8080. I'm just going to go ahead and pass it nil as our multiplexer. We're just going to use the default, and it's going to log fatal if we have any issues. So basically, this server is going to be listening, and if it gets this route, it's going to go ahead and run this function here. And so this function here has a response writer, which is another writer. W actually has access to this write method, so it is a writer. And we're going to go ahead and print hello world at any time someone requests that particular route. Allow access, and as you can see, let me go ahead and there it is. And of course, if we're not at that address, it's not going to find it. But we wrote to this particular writer that was passed in with this function using our fmt.Fprint function. Now, like I said, you can use many other different, there's going to be many different functions and other different packages that do something very similar. This is going to write to a string. It also takes a writer, and it takes a string as well. Let's go ahead and stop our server and start it back up. As you can see, there's nothing if you go the wrong path, but if we give it the hello, there it is. So there's multiple ways of doing that, but just remember that method to make it a writer interface, that's just describing its behavior. So even though all these things might be a little bit different, they might be on different objects or whatnot, if they have that same behavior, they can be passed in that situation, and it can be pretty interchangeable. It's a pretty unique little cool thing that Golang does. Well, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.